Hi everyone, very good evening to all of you and welcome back. In this video, let's learn about factors and multiples, and let's discuss what are factors and what are multiples. So let me take a number. Suppose I take a number 12. Suppose I take a number 12. If I divide 12 by 1, so this is 12. And if you divide it, you would get 12 here, and this would be 0, 0. Now you know that dividend is equal to divisor plus multiplied by, divisor multiplied by quotient plus remainder. So in this case you have dividend as 12. This 12 is dividend. Then you have 1 as divisor. You have 12 as quotient, and then you have 0 as remainder. And therefore you would say that we can write it like this: 1 multiplied by 12, because 0 is remainder is 0. Now whenever you divide any number by a number, and if you get remainder as 0, then that would be the exact divisor of that particular number. In this case, when you divided 12 by 1 and you got remainder as 0, and therefore you would say that 1 is the exact divisor of the number 12, and therefore the exact divisor would be the factor of that number. So what would be the definition of a factor? A factor of any number would be the exact divisor of that number, right? So a factor of any number would be the exact divisor of that number. This is very important. And the exact divisor means that you will get the remainder as 0. Now why don't you divide 12 by 12? Try it. You divide 12 by 12. So divide number 12 by 12, and again you would get 0 as a remainder, and therefore you would say that, hey, even 12 is the exact divisor of 12, and therefore 12 is a factor of 12. 12 is also a factor of 12. And that means that 12 is the exact divisor of 12, because you're getting remainder as 0. So here when you wrote 12 is equal to 1 multiplied by 12, then in that case you got 1 also, that was a factor of 12, and 12 also, that is a factor of 12. So let me divide 12 by 2. You divide 12 by 2. Divide it. 2, quotient will be 6. This would go and you would get remainder as 0. Now in this case, you would write, on the basis of this equation, you would write that 12 is equal to divisor into quotient plus remainder is 0. So you wrote it like this, and now you know that here 2 is the exact divisor of 12, and since the exact divisor would be the factor of that number, therefore 2 would be the factor of 12. 2 would be the factor of 12. And now, like in this case, when you wrote 12 as 1 multiplied by 12, where you got that 1 is the factor, and also 12 would be the factor of 12. Similarly, 6 would also be the factor of 12 in this case. And to check that, just divide 12 by 6 and you would get 2. This is 12 and this is 0. Now you can see that the remainder is 0, and therefore 6 is the exact divisor of 12, and therefore 6 is the factor of 12. Now divide 12 by 3. If you divide 12 by 3, then you would get 4 as quotient and remainder would be 0 again, and therefore you would say that hey, 3 is the exact divisor of 12, and therefore 3 is also a factor of 12. So you would write 12, that is dividend is equal to divisor 3 into quotient plus remainder is 0. Now 12 is equal to 3 multiplied by 4. 3 is a factor, and on the basis of this one and on the basis of this one, you could say that 4 is also a factor. You can cross check that. This will be 12 and this is 0. So what you see here is the quotient of an exact divisor would also be the factor, right? From this one, and from this one, we could say that even the quotient would be the exact divisor or the factor of that particular number. So what are the factors of 12? From this one, from this one, from this one, and from this one, we could say that hey, the factors of 12 are 1 and then 2 and then 3, then 4, then 6, and finally 12. So these are the factors of 12 on the basis of these three results that we got by dividing 12 by different numbers. So the factors of 12 would be these numbers, right? Now say this, 12 is equal to 1 multiplied by 12. Now this number 12 is the multiple of 1 and 12, is a multiple of 1 and 12. This number 12 is a multiple of 2 and 6. This 12 is a multiple of 3 and 4. 3 and 4. That means that multiple would be like factor multiplied by factor. Okay, multiple would be factor multiplied by factor, because in this case 1 and 12 were the factors of 12, and therefore 12 would be the multiple of 1 and 12. It's simple, like when you write it like 2 times 1 is 2, 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8. Excuse me. Therefore you say that 2 is a multiple of 2, 4 is a multiple of 2, 6 is a multiple of 2, 8 is a multiple of 2, right? Similarly, 2 is a multiple of 1, right? Because you can write it like this, 1 multiplied by 2 is 2, right? 4 is multiple of 2, 6 is multiple of 3, 8 is multiple of 4. So multiple is equal to factor multiplied by factor, factor times factor. So this is what we know about factors and multiples, and let me take one more example so that it gets completely clear to you. Like let us take 10. Let us take 10. Now what would be the first factor? The first factor would always be 1, and whenever you are asked to find the factors, what you have to do is, like in this case, in this example, you have to find the factors of 10. you have to start from 1, you have to start from the number 1, and you have to go up to you have to go up to the number 10. So there are two factors which are always fixed, there are two factors which are always fixed that you'll get for sure. One is 1. The first one would always be the number 1. This is for sure that this will be the factor, and the next number would be that number itself. That number itself would be the factor of that particular number. So 1 and 12 are for sure. So you can write 10 as 1 multiplied by 10, like you saw here. 12 was 1 multiplied by 12. So 1 and that particular number itself would be the two fixed factors. Now you have to find the other factors. So the way would be start from 1 and keep on dividing this particular number for which you have to find the factors by every number. So if you divide this number 10 by 2, that is, the next number would be 2 here, next number would be 2 here. So if you divide this number 10 by 2, you would get 5 here, and this would be 10, and therefore 0, and therefore you could write it as 2, that is divisor into quotient. Now you know that from the previous example that for this number 10, 2 would be the factor and also 5 would be the factor, right? So also 5 would be the factor. So the next two factors are 2 and 5. These are the two next factors. So you got 1 here, you got 2 here, now you have got 5 here. You have got 5 here. Now let's divide by 3. Divide by 3. Can you divide it? Is 3 the exact divisor of 10? No, because if you divide it by, if you take the quotient as 3, you would get here 9, and you would get 1 as a remainder. You got 1 as a remainder, therefore 1 is not 0, and therefore 3 is not the exact divisor. 3 is not exact divisor. So leave 3, move on to 4. You can divide 4 by 10. Can you divide it? If you take quotient as 2, here you would get 8. This would give you remainder as 2. Again, 4 is not the exact divisor. There is no need to check for 5 because you have found that 5 is the exact divisor here. And if you would divide by 6, you would not get 6 as exact divisor. For 7, you would not get 7 as the exact divisor of 10. Neither for 8, neither for 9, and for 10, you know that 10 would always be the factor of 10, because we saw that the two fixed factors, are always 1 and that particular number itself. So in this case of 10, there are 4 factors. So for 10, you have 1, then you have 2, then you have 5, and then you have 10. So these are the factors of 10. Okay, so what would be the multiple in this particular case? 10 would be the multiple. This 10 would be the multiple. 10 is multiple of 2 and 5. Similarly, here in case of this one, 10 multiplied by is equal to 1 multiplied by 10. So this 10 is multiple of 10 is multiple of 10 is multiple of 1 and 10. I hope that the concept of factors and multiple is clear to you, and let me quickly remind it that any exact divisor of that particular number, for which you have to find the factors, the exact divisor would be the factor, and there are two fixed factors. The first one would be the number 1, and then the second one would be, for two fixed factors would be 1 and that particular number itself. Okay, thanks for watching.